Welcome to the Week 3 Sentinel High School Football Recap. I'm Perry Mattern alongside Jake Adams, and we're going to take a look at what was another good weekend of football. And let's start with the quick snaps, Jake, and let's go back to Thursday. One Thursday game at West Shore Stadium turned out to be one of the best games in the area the entire weekend. Cedar Cliff comes back late to beat Cocalico 28-27.
Yeah, you and I were both there for that game. Cocalico was up for most of the game, only gave away a lead, I think, once or twice maybe. Brant Brenneman threw a 55 or 58-yard pass, to Noah Malone for the game-winning touchdown on a flanker screen there. One of the two they called on that day, and Grant Brenneman ended up finishing 17 of 32 for 335 yards and 3 TDs. Big day for him.
It was a pretty unbelievable play. They scored on the flanker screen earlier in the game for 77 yards and then went back to it on fourth down in that last drive to get the win. So now let's move on to Friday. First game that we have here listed, Bermudian Springs beat Shippensburg 21-0. The Greyhounds just couldn't get a lot of offense going.
Yeah, that's kind of been their story for them so far this season. Bermudians Ryan Markle on the other side of the ball went 7 for 12, 144 yards passing. Also rushed for a TD on 11 carries for 60 yards as well.
Move on to Camp Hill and James Buchanan, 42-14. Camp Hill, turns out they didn't have much trouble going all the way down to Mercersburg.
Yeah, they're still rolling there. Michael Hope, the tight end, 8 catches, 142 yards, 2 TDs, and the Lions put up 28 points in the second quarter, which kind of just blew the game open.
They've been on quite a roll offensively. We'll see if they can keep it going. Speaking of offensive rolls, East Pennsboro, 48-0 over Susquehanna. And once again, Brighton Fegley didn't have the monster numbers that he had in the first 2 weeks, but that was partially because he didn't have to stay in the game very long.
It was a disappointing game, you can almost say, because he put up 2 200-yard games, but I mean, even still 150 yards right about rushing. Nothing to sneeze at there. It ended up being a quarterback TJ Stallman's kind of day. 11 for 14, 174 yards, 4 TD passes against a Blackhawks defense that's just had a lot of struggles this season.
Mechanicsburg and Northern, this was a big one for the Wildcats going into division play next week, and they win 35-0 over the Polar Bears. And it looks like these offensive weapons back in I guess sync for the Wildcats.
Yeah, they scored all their points in the first half, so that's a good sign there that the first team offense is really clicking. Shaheem Brown had another good game, 18 carries, 201 yards, first time he's reached 200 yards this season. He had 2 TDs. Dre Anderson, 2 catches, 51 yards, both of them for touchdowns. So pretty good day there for the Wildcats.
In West Perry, Greencastle and West Perry, they're 53-13. Greencastle Antrim wins that game. And this may not be as much telling about West Perry as it is Greencastle might be one of the best teams in the Mid-Penn this year.
Yeah, Greencastle is looking really strong. They just ran at will Friday night. 48 carries, 384 yards rushing. Sam Sprague had 3 TDs, including 4 for 82 yards on the night, and he was their secondary rusher there. I mean, they just had guys running all over the place against West Perry.
Redland and Dover, the only game that we did not pick the same. You picked Dover,
Nope.
I picked Redland. So, of course, I'm going to bring it up because of the fact that the Patriots won this game, 27-7 over Dover, and a big game on the ground for the Patriots.
Yeah, Phil Overton's just been getting better and better as the season's gone on. I had a 3-yard rush in the fourth quarter, and their 20-point fourth quarter for the Patriots, which pulled the game away. Neither team scored until the third quarter either, so it was kind of a little bit to get going. Justin Johnson added in a touchdown run later in the game, later in the fourth, and then Garrett Scott threw to Tyler Hodges for the final score there from 18 yards out.
Redland improves to 3-0 on the year. Columbia and Trinity, probably the biggest surprise of all the games in our area. This was a game that Trinity looked to be pretty much in control of, but Columbia scores the last 21 points, and they win 28-27.
Yeah, and Trinity even had a chance there going into the fourth quarter up 27-14, but they gave up 14 more in the fourth quarter. Good news there for the Shamrocks, though. Hunter Kruger, their kicker, hit 2 field goals, first time this season any local teams had a kicker make 2 in a game. 35 yards out and 37 yards out, so it's nice to have a weapon like that. 3
games that we highlighted in our preview video on this past Friday. And let's start at the game that you were at in Cumberland, or at Bishop McDevitt, I should say. Bishop McDevitt beats Cumberland Valley 6-3 in a game that included 2 blackouts.
Yeah, that was an interesting little game we had there. 2 blackouts there, made for quite a show for the band, Bishop McDevitt's band, to have some fun, get the crowd going in the pitch black. As for the game, CV you know, they don't like moral victories. It's a proud program there. They got a lot of history there. But Michael Whitehead said, you know, it's a good game if we're holding them to 6 points in a game. Don't know if any other team's going to be able to do that to that team, even with them losing their starting running back there over at Bishop McDevitt. Quayshawn Jenkins, though, ended up being the difference maker there. He's generally a linebacker star there. They don't like to use him much, the Crusaders do, on offense, but he had 10 carries for 89 yards, and 7 of those carries and a bulk of those yards came in the fourth quarter, including I believe it was a 28-yard rush on the game-winning drive that set up a nice 7-yard pass on a slant route that ended up winning the game. Nick Marsilio, the quarterback, like I said, that slant route was to Bryce Hall. Just under 5 minutes, 30 seconds left, and CV just couldn't find the offense to go. 4 runs on their last drive, ended up in just 6 yards, kind of just stalled out there. But defensively, that's the game that CV wanted to play, and they got it.
Well, as you mentioned there at the start of that, moral victory, that's what you have to take out of that. McDevitt and Mechanicsburg coming up this weekend. Carlisle and Southwestern, the Thundering Herd, moved to 2-1 on the year, 34-23 victory. Yeah,
they were down 23-22 actually going into the fourth quarter, and Tyler Green, yet again, is just proven to be that Jerome Bettis type back. 3 yards, touchdown, 3 yards, touchdown, 4 yards, touchdown. He had a 2-yard run in the fourth quarter to give them the lead, and then Deshaun Millington, that Wildcat specialist there, 61-yard run with 9:25 left in the game that put him up by 2 scores, kind of just pushed it out of reach there. And we're watching on Twitter and stuff and just seeing the scores going back and forth there over at CV. And Carlisle is just like, when are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? And finally there you just see 2 quick scores in a matter of minutes, just kind of gave them the lead. So it's good to see them at 2-1 now, doubling up last year's win total. And then to move on from there, you were over at our game of the week, Bowling Springs, Big Springs, sorry. You got to see quite a battle there.
It really was, and it was interesting because both teams scored on their first drive. It was 7-7 about 5 minutes into the game, and then from there, nobody scored until there was about 2 minutes left in the game when Dylan Romig took a counter play, and the head coach Nate Fryer for the Bubblers just said, you know, Big Spring is a flow type of team. They flow to the ball, and they set them up perfectly with that big play, the 27-yard run for Romig to win that game 14-7, and you know, they made no secrets about it, did Boiling Springs either, that this one felt good after losing the game last year due to forfeit. They had won the game by the score, 41-33, and so now technically by score, Boiling Springs has taken the last 3 in a row against Big Spring, and Big Spring, it would have been a really big win for them, moving to 3-0 heading into conference play, in division play, rather, but now instead 2-1, and for Boiling Springs, that was kind of a must-win, now 1-2 on the year. And last thing, we'll throw it in here with the recap. 3 Sentinel Stars, and Jake, you got them.
Yeah, so starting off over at Redland, we got Phil Overton. Like I said, he's been getting better every week. 22 carries, 277 yards on the ground, 2 TDs, including right now our current leader with a 99-yard touchdown run. He had just another big game. He's over 500 rushing yards, I believe he's at. A bunch of touchdowns already, and Redland has learned that he is their go-to guy on offense. Especially after, I think they kind of learned that after the big game-winning touchdown he had against Carlisle 2 weeks ago.
And it's nice for them, too, as well, losing John Ford to be able to put someone in basically right in his spot, and it's worked out just as well. And next person you have listed there, it's kind of hard not to throw somebody in there from Camp Hill.
Yeah. Michael Schuster, the quarterback, 16 for 27, 275 yards, 3 TDs, did have a pick, but in the game against the Rockets, in the blowout that it was, it didn't really matter to throw that pick. He's just been clicking all season with Bill Williams at running back, Michael Hope at tight end, all those weapons that he's got there. The Lions have just looked unstoppable. It's going to get tougher, like we've been saying a little bit, as the division slate goes on, but for right now, you got to like, if you're a Lions fan, what you're getting from the offense and from this quarterback in particular.
Cedar Cliff, we had trouble picking which one we wanted. Grant Brenneman and Noah Malone both had such good games, and it was partially because they worked together, Noah Malone being the receiver. But, that gives away who our last guy is there, Noah Malone, but also the fact that he kicked all the extra points, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those unsung things there in high school football that if you got a decent kicker, that it's a weapon for you. You know you got a guy who can make the game winner the point after or hit a 35-yard field goal. Didn't want to go with the other quarterback for this week. Quarterbacks get all the attention. Malone just stood out as well. 4 catches, 156 yards, 2 TDs, a 77-yarder earlier in the game that we said on that flanker screen. gets the 58-yarder at the end of the game. His coach has to call timeout right there, right before, to let him catch a breather so that we could kick the PAT.
Well, it was the game winner, so you had to have it. So, for Jake Adams, I'm Perry Mattern. We thank you very much for tuning into the recap, and we will have the preview video for Week 4 coming up later this week. And as always, you can pick up the football tab. That'll be in the Friday edition of the Carlisle Sentinel.